Hey, this is Joel, and let's talk about what's going on in the skateboarding industry right now, shall we? Shoe-wise. This is a video about shoes, skateboarding industry with the shoes. Guy Mariano, he's on Nike now. Seems like a lot of pros been going to Nike. Nike's been buying out a lot of pros. Almost all the Street League pros. Actually, I think it is just about all of them now. Except for Chris Cole. He's still on DC. Now, Nyjah Houston. I remember 10 years or so ago, he used to ride for my favorite shoe company. And then recently he's been on DC. But now, seeing by some posts, and it hasn't been officially announced yet, but you'll see it soon, Nyjah's now on Nike. It seems like all the pros are going over to Nike. Now, this is not a good thing. The skateboarding industry needs to be owned and operated by skateboarders. This is not what skateboarding should be. Buy the shoes from companies that are skater owned and operated. Emerica, Lakai, Fox. Those are four that I'll mention right there. Because those four I know for a fact are skateboarder owned and operated. Now the shoe I buy, the SXL OGs. So my everyday brown, and the ones I've been skating for the past 3 months and still going strong. 3 months of heavy usage skateboarding wise. Look at those soles. 3 months. Very durable shoe. It's thicker, it's puffier, it's a real shoe. I grew up skateboarding in the early 90s, or not early 90s, I was born in the early 90s, late 90s. I grew up skateboarding in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I remember shoes. They were big space boots. They were really comfortable. So a lot of them didn't have really good board feel, but there were some that did. But there's a medium, there's a mix in there. And in 1996, actually the year I started skateboarding when I was 3 years old, got my first board. Now, I wish I could have been able to go to a local skate shop and get these shoes at that age if I could get them in a child size at that time. But, they came out with the XLs in 96. And this is the same as they were in 96. You see, you got that puffy tongue, puffy collar, but, board fill. The board fill in this shoe, it's like skating in your common slipper shoe of today's modern skateboarding. It's the same board feel as that, but with actual protection around your feet. Definitely check these shoes out. They do run a little small to the size. I wear a size 8. I got to go a size 8.5 or 9 in these. I will say that. But the skateboarding industry, support skater-owned and operated companies. That's what matters. Keep skateboarding in the hands of skateboarders. My favorite era of skateboarding is the era I missed by a few years. The big pants, small wheels era. I wish I could have experienced that. It's just at that time, I was a newborn baby at that time in the early 90s. So I wasn't there for it. Like I didn't skate at that time simply because I couldn't walk at that time. But that's my favorite era because everything then, it was all skater owned and operated. It was when you had Real, you had Girl just starting out, those two companies just starting out. Anti-Hero was just starting out. You know, you had, let's see here, early 90s. There's quite a few other companies. You had Element that was just starting out too in the early 90s. In 1992, that's when they started. You have quite a few skate companies starting off in the early 90s that are skater owned and operated. And that's the way it should be. And today's this era of skateboarding is way too corporate. It's way too corporate for it to even be skateboarding. Skateboarding is something that's core. It's something that is to itself. It's different than everything else. It's not supposed to be like everything else. Everything else in the United States right now is completely corporate, and now skateboarding is getting into that mix. That is not good. Keep it skater-owned and operated. Buy from the right companies. That is what powers it. That's the reason why Nike has been being able to buy out so many of the pros, is that you guys, us everyday skaters, been buying way too much Nike. You got to buy some S. You got to buy some Vox. You got to buy some America. You got to buy some Lakai. Now, my favorite is S. I love S. They're the best shoes. The OGs, the Excel OGs, best shoe ever made. It's the best shoe that I have skated so far. And they made it in 1996. That's when they started making it like that, all the way up, and then until they went on hiatus for a while. Then when they came back, and then they reissued it, but it's the same as it was, and they got the perfect shoe. Right there, in my opinion. But support those skater-owned and operated companies. Skateboarding needs to be owned by skateboarders, not big corporations.